only 9 minutes slow. I'm just
Yeah. Is it really? 102, right. Wow, man, no wonder we're so late. Hello, Hockey World. Monday, March 20th, 2017.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I am Eklund. You're watching the HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes to you every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And today we're going to be talking about all kinds of stuff. We got plenty to talk about. But Mike is going to share a funny story to begin the day. And I love setting up that way because now you're destined to fail. But go ahead, Mike.
Well, all I know is that I love covering hockey games, and I was up in Toronto on Saturday for the game against the Hawks, and it's about a 2-hour drive from Buffalo to Toronto. And I bought myself a nice new blue corduroy jacket. That's my thing. The blue I have corduroy jackets, black, gray, brown.
Very professor like of you, I must say.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good hockey writer look.
It is.
Anyway.
Got the Leafs thing going on. It's all good.
Yeah, and it's got the the brown leather patch.
Really, you got the patches and everything. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, but then the thing is, I never wear brown shoes. Never. I always wear black shoes. And with this thing, because the patches are brown, I'll break out my brown shoes, which I've worn like twice in like 4 years. So I break out the brown shoes, put them on, get in the car, drive up. Unbeknownst to me, these shoes they've been sitting in the closet for 4 years. The glue on the bottom of the shoe has dried up, and I step out of the car, remember, 100 miles away from my house, and the sole of the shoe falls completely off.
Awesome.
And it's raining in Toronto, or it's drizzling. So
you sit right in the press box there with all the other hooligans.
Oh yeah, and I'm flopping. My foot is flopping around like a clown foot, like a big bird.
Oh, that's great.
So I find a convenience store, and I crazy glue the sole on.
That's what you do.
Fantastic.
That was the part-time solution. And I covered the Marlies game, and I had to literally run to the Hudson's Bay company to buy a new pair of shoes. So those shoes, 4 years, I wore them twice. Now they're covered somewhere.
I will tell you this, Mike, so you'll feel better. For whatever reason, people now wear the brown shoes with blue, even though you're not supposed to. Yeah. You never were supposed to, but they do it now in defiance. So you would have been okay either way.
Yep. Yeah.
It's awesome. I love it. No, I think it's amazing.
Brown shoes.
That's awesome. No, and I mean, you're talking to a guy who went to Atlanta to cover the All-Star game with 2 black left-footed shoes, like shoes that I thought were the same, but actually were different shoes. So I had 2 left-footed shoes when I arrived. That's a real problem.
I'm stripping on camera. I'm too hot.
Not something you can do. You cannot. Well, for God's sake, Russ, turn off your camera next time you do. So no, that's something you just cannot do.
Yeah, but what were you wearing? Were you wearing sneakers?
I was wearing sneakers, but I packed. I flew into Atlanta, so I packed, and I had, so I wore sneakers to the game. Yeah, but it was just it was kind of ridiculous, just completely. And it was when I was speaking in front of the Professional Hockey Association about blogging and stuff like that. This is the Atlanta All-Star Games. We're talking quite a while ago. No. When there even was a team in Atlanta. But yeah, this. Yeah.
I remember when there was a team there.
Oh yeah, actually, that All-Star game was, I think, the first All-Star game I covered.
Actually, I played in the media game at that All-Star game. That All-Star game was good. I mean, to be honest, it's a good arena. People just didn't show up.
I think that was the Tim Thomas All-Star game, if I remember right, where he went nuts and had a really great game.
Phillips Arena, yeah.
Should have gotten the MVP for that. All right, so let's get going here. We have, I think we got to start with what happened this weekend in terms of all the playoff races there.
Yeah, I think let's start in the West.
For a second, first, Russ, because you had some thoughts on this. The Flyers did maintain, and we won't touch on them for long, but they did maintain a chance still. They
had this much chance, and the interesting thing is a few things. I've been bringing up all year that when you're facing teams in front of you and behind you, to continue to bleed out that point's not good. They did it again, but they did it in comeback fashion again. So it's hard to say, well, it's a bad win. It's not a bad win. It's just they've been doing this all year, and it's a thing that's not going to help them in the playoffs. But the 2 big points, Couturier on the 3-on-3 on that goal that's basically set up the Shen goal. This is why you don't trade him. This is why all the crazy people on Twitter who want him traded because they think he's just a third-line center, you don't trade him. He's a shutdown guy. He'll get you 40, 45 points, but he's one of the smartest, if not the smartest hockey player on that team. And in a sea of minuses on that team, he's a plus. There's a reason for that.
No, it's a great point. And like I said,
Detroit size, of course, he's getting stronger.
Value. He's been, the fans have been very hard on him. I have a good friend out in Winnipeg, and she's an enormous Couturier fan, and gets really upset with the whole concept of, of the fans getting on him all the time. And they want something from him that he's not. They really want him to be a scorer. He's not a scorer. He's a talented enough scorer. He could score goals here and there and make plays. And I saw actually in the World Cup of hockey, he looked really good at times playing with other skilled players. Mm-hmm. But the bottom line is, there are 4 teams in the Metro that would give you a lot for him just to try to shut down Malkin, right? Like you're looking at he's a very valuable player, and I don't think he's going to go anywhere. I think he's one of the less touchable players on the Flyers, if there's such a thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Although she wouldn't believe that. But there we go. Anyway, continue.
Here's the second point. Okay, so I had to look it up yesterday because I felt in my mind that Ivan Provorov is being way overused, and we all know this just by optics. And somebody brought up to me Zach Werenski, and I looked it up. And yes, he has even more average time on the ice than Zach Werenski. Provorov's got 21.49, and Werenski's like 21.04. So even John Tortorella has pulled Werenski back just a little. And I feel like the Flyers need to do that too. Like everybody could say, well, that first goal wasn't his fault. Fine. The stick got lost. It happens. And then he got a nice goal, and he gets the nice goal because you know what? He doesn't try to get a fancy big time wind up on the one-timer. He finds a lane, he shoots, he scores. That's a smart move. But on the PK, he was completely gassed. He couldn't even move the puck away where it was an easy play to move it away, and gave up a goal. And so, look, he's a -10 on the year. I'm not saying he's having a bad year. He's having a great year. I'm saying the coach is overusing him mightily, and there are times when he could play the second power play less. There's times when he could definitely get a few shifts off the game, because I'm telling you, down the stretch, this is not helpful for this kid. Everybody's like, well, what are you going to do? And I'm like, well, if Shane Gostisbehere has to give up minutes to a rookie, then that's an indictment on Shane Gostisbehere and every other defenseman, and everybody would probably say it is. But if I'm the coach, I've got to distribute those minutes a little more evenly because it's just too much for a kid. He'll never admit it either.
Or it's a commentary on Hackstall having not as much confidence in Gostisbehere as he does in a 19-year-old in Provorov.
Oh, there's no question that. I mean, it's what it tells all of us.
Yeah, and that's I think that's Provorov is just is a way better defensive player than Gostisbehere. There's no question about it. I mean, that's not even fair on Gostisbehere necessarily, because that's not what Gostisbehere is.
But when you have this mix of players, then give Andy McDonald a couple more minutes. Like you can't set up your team so that. To me, the 2 hardest positions in hockey are goaltender and number 1 defenseman. Those are the 2 hardest positions. And now you're asking a kid to take the most minutes, and he's getting minutes like big-time veteran 10-year guys are getting in the league.
Yeah. Here's the question, and we can apply this to the entire playoff scenario right now. We've got less than 3 weeks left to go in the regular season, anywhere between 10 to 12 games for every team. Yeah. Is 6 points is 6 points too much to overcome to make the playoffs? Because right now in the West, you have Nashville and St. Louis 6 points up on the Kings. Yeah. And the Flyers, who we were just talking about, they're 6 points behind Toronto for the last wild card spot in the East. If it's too much, then obviously then right now the race is down to the second wild card. I don't think it's too much. I think there's enough time that these teams can still climb back into the races.
Lose 5 in a row, win 5 in a row.
Yeah, that's really what has to happen. You got to go on a streak of some kind if you're gonna pick up ground right now. This is the time when you just have to go, 6 or 7 in a row, type of thing. In your
last. That's why it's hard to count teams out. They really have to be almost like 10 points out.
Yeah, it is. I mean, this is, the Flyers 5 points out, but played, they also, the Leafs have a game in hand on them. So,
right. And Carolina 6 points out, but they have the same number of games. So, and Carolina has played a lot better recently. Now,
I'll tell you what, Jordan Stahl hit it on all cylinders last night in the locker room, though. That game, they didn't do anything in the first, which they didn't. They played a dominating second. I mean, they dominated the second. In the third, they had their moments, but he was completely unhappy with the way the team played, and I don't blame him because I think he knows he's been in this league long enough. He remembers winning, that if you're a team that is supposed to win, you can't give up 2 goals like that the way they did. Now, the connecting one was lucky, and some people didn't like that I put that, hey, he got it, luck was on his side when I posted a picture last night, but it really was. Now, good work, good hard work leads to luck, but he admitted it. He goes, look, I didn't even know that goal was mine.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's nothing insulting about calling it lucky. That's the one thing that people in the NHL, they don't seem to. Sometimes people are like, oh, you're insulting. You're not insulting. You do create your own luck. I'm completely 100% in the fact that you have to be in the right place at the right time to be lucky. Yeah, and it takes a lot to get lucky. I mean, which is not something that happens, every day. So,
talking about the West for a second. I mean, the LA Kings, they've had to come up big to get back in this race. Yeah. They've lost 3 of their last 4 games. They lost a point to Arizona. They lost the head-to-head to St. Louis. They beat a bad Buffalo team. They got destroyed by Calgary. They're still in it. They're still 6 points behind. But I mean, if they can
have an easy schedule, but they have to win these games. And looking at the West, you can see it here. The standings are what they are. In Chicago, really, the Minnesota Wild losing 5 games in a row is not something you can just glaze over. I mean, I think that's a big issue, if for no other reason than the fact that the Wild don't want to play the Blues in the first round. That's not a game they want to play. So, I mean, I do think that they would beat the Blues in the first round, but they'd much rather play Nashville or Edmonton. So, I think when it all comes down to it, that's where they'd rather go. LA, you're right. I mean, they don't have a really great shot at this, in any way, shape, or form, but they're the only team that has a chance at all in that. But besides that, you have your 8 playoff teams. That's the Kings, and the Kings that was lost against Calgary was devastating to them, and that even put them out of my projected standings. Where they had been in that third spot.
What happens if Nashville loses 5 in a row and they win 5 in a row?
Right. I mean, the Predators are the team I think they can catch now. I think that's really, and it's beyond the fact that simply they're only they're 6 points behind the Predators and 10 points behind the Oilers. So.
And Russ, that's not impossible, losing 5 in a row, winning 5 in a row. I mean, we saw what Philadelphia did last year, but it's almost we're getting almost to act of God territory. We're getting to the point where, where you're like a massive injury, something like if Pekka Rinne goes down for Nashville, then that's everything.
Here's the thing. Okay, so now you're bringing up the one thing that probably Oilers fans don't want me to bring up is the insane amount of games that Cam Talbot has played.
Yeah. Yes. And
Mark Rosas has played 4 games, I think.
Yeah. The Oilers have a tough schedule too. The Oilers don't have it easy. They're not in it by a long shot. They have to win a couple more games here in the next few games.
He's well over 60 games. Like, he is in Hobby Bullen territory. He's going to play 70 games.
To me, when I look at both of the wild card races, you really have to look at this column here, the goal differential column, because that sort of gives you an idea of the teams that really have a shot. Because you can see, okay, the Kings are -4, Jets fall off at -13, but then you go to -38. So the Jets, they're really not in it, but they have a little bit of a shot. They're 10 points out, right? But then you go to the East, and it's even more predominant. Look at this. So you go through this, the Rangers.
Let's stop at the Rangers just for a minute, because
+42 team in the wild card is
right now, to show how bad the crossover is and these standings are and the structure is, they're like the greatest wild card team in the history of the NHL.
Oh, yeah. No, they are a legitimate 20 games over 500.
They would be winning other divisions.
No, it's very possible that the second and third best team in the NHL will be this matchup right here between the Blue Jackets and the Penguins.
They would be 3 points ahead of Montreal right now.
Yeah,
and that's
right. So that's in there. But then you look, okay, so the Islanders -8, that's still Tampa -3. Then it falls, and the Flyers are -27. All right, and the rest of the way here, you're looking at teams in -20. So to me, this is really, this is the line. Tampa, and the Islanders have a shot. But that's it.
They're 3 points ahead of Montreal, Russ, playing a tougher schedule because they're playing Columbus.
Oh yeah, right. No, and that's
why I said they're like the greatest wild card team in the history of wild card teams right now.
Yeah, so Montreal winning the division, which now it looks like they really will after this weekend. I mean, because those were the toughest games Montreal had left were against the Ottawa Senators. And now it gets easy for them. They're going to run away with it now. Not run away with it, but they've got.
They should be able to win it.
I don't think it. But honestly, do they want to? I mean, that's the crazy thing. I mean, they're gonna. Why would you play the Rangers instead of the Bruins? I mean, or potentially the Leafs or somebody else that's going to fall in there.
Well, I mean, let's look at the.
I think they want the Rangers. I told you. I think they've built themselves to play the Rangers.
They would win that series according to my thing, but I think that's not a series you want to play. I mean, they do have good success against the Rangers. They have built themselves to play against the Rangers.
I mean, Lundqvist isn't great in Montreal, as we know.
Yeah.
Well,
I want to move on to some things because I got a lot to do.
Hang on, I think Mike had a quick.
Mike, go ahead with your point.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say over the weekend, Tampa Bay stumbled. They played Washington. They came back. Then Washington took the lead, so they didn't gain any ground. The Islanders lost, got a point, but lost in overtime to Columbus. The Leafs. A valiant effort against Chicago, but they lose in overtime. So really, the wild card race is stagnant right now. I think that Florida's on the verge of being done just simply because they're playing terribly. And again, Ryan, unless Luongo comes back, I just don't see any way that they can consistently win because they're not getting great goaltending from Reimer and they're not scoring. So.
Right. But here's the other thing too, Mike. I think the signing of Keith Yandel was a complete failure. I'm willing to say that year one. I am because
no,
I don't see what he's doing for them.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, I don't know either. And I think that Ekblad is still out. I mean, and
yes. With Ekblad out, clearly, he could fill that role. But otherwise, I watch him out there, and he is just lost in the shuffle, defensively especially.
Okay, so I want to talk. One of the things we're going to be doing, and I apologize for not really telling you much about this, guys, before we started, but it was my blog, and it's not a hard thing to do. Is and it's kind of nice sometimes for you guys not to have too much. I know you don't probably want that, but no, I'm not going to give any lead up here. We are going to be picking expansion. I'm putting this thing through called Expansionville, so I'm going to be having between now and the expansion draft. I'm going to be throwing teams out there once in a while in blogs. Mm-hmm. And today I put the Bruins out there. And I want to go through a couple thoughts with the Bruins, rumor-wise, that I've heard, and then then we'll talk. Then we will do what the fans have done and actually make our selections, and then see what the fans have said and see who the Hockey Buzz community thinks the Bruins should protect,
okay.
And therefore see who's available. Rumors first off, the Bruins are very concerned about their defense in this expansion draft, and they have they don't have a whole lot of They can only protect two players because Chara's protected, right? Chara has to be protected. So
he has no move. Yeah, so he has to be protected.
And really, when you look at it, there's no way. And by the way, I'm trying to find the answer to this question too, because I talked to somebody today. What happens if you have if you have two goalies with no movement clauses? I don't know that that's happened.
No team has that though.
No.
Yeah, but what if someone traded for that? I mean,
they probably can't.
Yeah,
well,
maybe.
Once a no move clause is traded, it drops off.
And it drops off. That's right.
Permanently?
Yes.
So
because he waived the no move clause.
But I've been told that
I know it's debatable because there are some people who think that.
Yes. I've been told that it's actually there are different no movement clauses in contracts that some do fall off, some don't. So I don't know. I'm not sure. Regardless,
it's not
probably not going to happen. So let's not worry about it. The Bruins have really what's going to happen is anybody who has got a team with at least one or two. Everybody has a team with like two no movement clauses, maybe three. The Bruins have four.
Mm-hmm.
So the Bruins have Bergeron, Backetts, Krejci, and Chara.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Obviously, Krejci's the one they wouldn't mind moving contract wise, even though he's played well for them and he's still a good player. But Chara, they're not going to move Chara because they wouldn't do that to Chara. They would be up to Chara. He's got and Backetts they just signed, so they're not going to move Backetts. Bergeron is obviously he's their best player. So arguably this year, but he's Bergeron. So that puts them in a spot where you have this whole thing where you can either take 7 forwards,
right,
3 defensemen and a goalie, or just 8 skaters of any kind and a goalie.
Right.
There's really no reason if you've got a couple of no movement clause guys that anyone will go with the 8 skaters and a goalie because it really puts you into a spot because if you have 4 players, it becomes four skaters and a goalie now.
The only way that you're going to go with 8 skaters and a goalie is if you want to protect more than 3 defensemen.
Right.
And if you look at the Bruins defense right now, there's no reason. No, none at all.
Right. So let's look. I'm going to bring this up here so we can look at their forwards, and we're going to have to pick 3 guys here. So let's go through this and be a fun little exercise, because I think that this is something that people are starting to. It's really confusing, and I think.
Well, how many NHL games do you have to have in?
Well, I did the work on that, so I've got the players here that you have to worry about. Okay, so these are the players. So I'm going to go.
Because I think we should talk about defense too.
Yeah, well, defense is second. So it's going to be forwards, defense, and goalie the way this thing sets up. So you've got to protect 3 of these guys, and obviously Brad Marchand's going to be protected, right?
Yeah.
Then after that, Pasternak.
And I think Ryan Spooner under Cassidy will get protected, because I think he fits more with the up tempo game that they're playing now rather than what they were playing against with Claude Julien there.
I think that's fair.
Right. So let's go with Spooner, and now we get one more guy.
I think that they would expose Matt Bolesky, because
I don't know about that. Can I see the list one more time?
Okay, so it's Ferland, Bolesky, Dominic Moore, Jimmy Hayes, Zach Ronaldo, Drew Stafford.
No, they're going to keep Bolesky, because I heard Cassidy saying the other day, like when Bolesky went out there and fought, that he also likes his toughness, and so I think they're going to keep Bolesky.
All right, so we'll submit that.
Guys like Nash and Jimmy Hayes qualify for the 40-70 rule, so that gives them 2 forwards that they have enough games, so that would work.
All right, so now we're going to go to 2 defenders, okay? So they only get to keep 2 of these guys because Chara, remember this. They've got McQuaid, Lyles, Krug, Grant, Arneson, Miller, Casto, Cross, Kevin Miller, Colin Miller, and Kevin Miller, and Joe Murray, right? So
I mean, Kevin Miller, they'd signed to an extra 3 years after this year.
Really like
it's going to be Kevin Miller and Krug.
Correct.
Krug, yeah, I would say that's true too.
So Carlo hasn't played enough games, is what I guess.
No, he's exempt.
Right.
Yeah, he's exempt. Yep.
That's what I was thinking. But okay.
And I went through and got all that. And then your goalie, you got to protect one goalie. It's going to be Rask. So
right.
Yeah,
that's easy.
But that does expose Subban and Antonio Khudobin.
So what?
So what, right? Okay, so here we go. There's the survey, and where is the results? That's pretty funny. So the results, I got to make it so the results show up. Sorry about that. I will do that. I think we did it. I mean, I think that I'll fix that in a second. I think that those picks were pretty easy on this team. This is like relatively easy. There's no real big. So the players that that are most susceptible from this, I would say Kevin Hayes is susceptible.
Yeah, but they're not in love with Kevin Hayes.
Right. So I'm saying guys that remember one of these guys is going to be on Vegas. So let's see. Right. So let's pick the player that we think is going to go to Vegas in this situation. Now I think I have Kevin Hayes, Malcolm Subban,
Jimmy Hayes.
Jimmy Hayes.
It's Jimmy Hayes. I'm sorry. Shoot. Jimmy.
Yeah, Kevin Hayes is the Ranger.
All right. Why did that? Jimmy Hayes, right? Thanks. Jimmy Hayes, Malcolm Subban, and I think Colin Miller a little bit. I think that he's also a player that.
I think they're going to go with Hayes because he's big and he scored some goals in this league. And
he's young.
And he's young.
He's young, right? So there you go.
He's not ridiculously expensive. He's only making $2.3 million, so that will be a plus for Vegas. Not having an argument against a guy like Krejci, even though Krejci is good, is $7 million. I don't think they want to take many of these unless it's a guy who they can flip and have for 1 year. That's why like Rick Nash with the Rangers. If
a very difficult team in this would be the Rangers.
Yes.
Yeah, no, we'll be doing the Rangers tomorrow. I want to do the Rangers tomorrow.
It'll be difficult.
So I'm going to pop in Jimmy Hayes, fix this. Now I'm going to tell you something. The interesting rumor that I heard on this team. There's a couple here. So first off, after I make Jimmy, here we go. All right. I can't believe I did that. And I was like thinking to myself as I'm doing this, I'm like, that doesn't sound right. It's not Kevin Hayes. Anyway, my mind's losing it. But that's not important to anybody else. So here we go.
Your wife might agree, but
on this one. Krejci. They're going to try to move Krejci. I've heard they really would like to move Krejci. I don't think they're going
to eat half his salary. He's unmovable.
Half his salary. They could offer him to Vegas. Like this, that's a player that they could, they eat part of their salary. Vegas, it's not a bad player for Vegas to pick up.
I don't think McPhee will do it.
Yeah, no. And like I said, it's one thing if it's a 1 year hit. It's one thing if he's a free agent in 2018. Then yes, because they got to reach a minimum salary requirement.
He's not even a marketable player.
Yeah, Krejci is signed through 2021. That's an albatross. That's an anchor.
Yeah, but it depends. Now you're right. I mean, obviously you're right if it's the whole contract. But if we're talking about
Okay, let's say even if
they do need. He is an exciting player. I mean,
he's not marketable. He's not selling jerseys.
Yeah,
he might be in a situation like that.
No way.
No way. No way.
I mean, I mean, they got to have some. I mean, Krejci among these players. I don't agree.
I'll tell you the scenario where Krejci is moved. Krejci is moved to another team that has another player who's making
Just
big
like
money.
that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Crap for crap. Not to say that.
Don't call him crap. He's a good player.
No. I just said not to say that he's.
Yeah.
But big contract for big contract. That's the only way he gets moved. That contract is a bad deal.
Like, I'll tell you what, Eck, if I have a choice and I'm Vegas and the two calls I get, one's about Nash, if Nash were to agree to it, and one's about Krejci, I'm taking Nash because he is marketable, he's a bigger player, and he's only got 1 year left.
Bingo. Exactly.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. He's marketable too. I agree with that. I've also heard, though, that, they are going to go to Chara and talk to him. Now whether or not he wants to go somewhere or not is the question, but I don't think he's going to go to Vegas, but he is a marketable player, obviously.
Well, I mean,
he is.
He's a marketable player, but the thing is, I mean, I've watched him 3 or 4 games the last couple of weeks. He's still effective. He's still got something. It's only 1 more year on that contract. It's not at $6 million. It's, I think, in the $4 million range.
Boston needs to keep him based on the fact that some of their good defensemen that they drafted are still a couple of years away. They still need him to bridge the gap.
Now, one thing that I just heard brought up, and it's a possibility. We've seen how Chara has sort of tutored Brandon Carlo. There's talk that after the Frozen Four, after BU or BC, whoever Charlie McAvoy plays for, I think it's BU, right?
Yeah.
After they get eliminated, or after
no, he's BC. You do this every time. He's
after he's either eliminated or they win. That McAvoy might be signed and might step right into the Bruins lineup, and that's a guy who's more of an offensive defenseman, a puck carrying guy who you want a partner with.
The only thing about that is that I was talking to somebody that knows his family and said that his plan was to go there for at least 2 years.
Okay.
And so while I agree with you that I thought that was going to be the case, now I'm thinking it's going to be hard to no, he is BU.
Okay.
It was somebody else we were getting mixed up with that.
Colin White's BC, correct?
That's right. Colin White's BC.
And Colin White might sign with Ottawa.
Yeah, I think BC is out now, I think.
Yes, they are. BC is out.
But the thing is, yes, so with McAvoy, I think he's going to end up shooting it down for another year.
Right.
I mean, I think it's about a 50-50 proposition based on what we were looking at, that it's either Hayes or Miller. Because you got to remember, defensemen are not going to be easy for Vegas to get their hands on. So if it's an equal thing, if it's Colin Miller, Jimmy Hayes, and you think about that, you might go with the defenseman because you may not get defensemen in other places.
Yeah, but you know what? Yeah. Again, Hayes gives you that size, speed, goal scoring, and
I agree.
And youth, and that's somebody that they could actually market. They could market him to the fan base, saying, "Hey, look, we got somebody who's young here. We're going to re-sign him after the season." Like they could sell Jimmy Hayes to the fans.
I agree.
Yeah, no, I think they could. I think they could too. So yeah, that's a good one. I'm trying to find the stats for this thing, so I'll put the stats out later. I apologize for that. I usually do polls, and I did a survey this time, so I'm not quite sure how it works. I apologize for the fact that the stats don't show up there.
Yeah, I thought I saw the poll. That's weird. That's weird.
Did you see it?
I thought I did. Because I was.
Okay, let me go back. Maybe let me see.
I think while you're searching for that, we definitely need to talk about the Olympics.
Yes.
Yeah, start ahead.
Because Hockey Night in Canada had a little piece that they leaked out because they wanted to tease everybody with Eugene Melnyk.
Yeah.
And Eugene Melnyk basically saying, why in the world would I send Erik Karlsson to play when the league is going on, possibly, and he's going to play against Canada and I'm Canadian?
Yeah, as usual.
We've been saying this all along, Act. This is the issue.
As usual, Eugene Melnick put his foot in his mouth as usual.
No, I don't think he did. Actually,
no, because I mean, supposedly his argument was I don't want my star player going to the Olympics. But then he brought the Canadian parochialism in there and said, well, he's a Swede, and I don't why should I have him go and play for Sweden against Canada? You don't admit that. But at
least he's honest. No, but at least he's honest. Here's the thing: he's not getting any younger. He wants to win. Elliot Friedman cited when Hasek got hurt. It's a fair point, and he doesn't want to go through that again. And he's not the only owner that feels that way.
Now, it's interesting because Bob McKenzie this morning was doing a spot on Toronto radio and indicated that apparently there were owners in the league who were pissed off at Gary Bettman for even offering the thing to the PA where they would go to the Olympics if they extended the CBA for 3 years. There are owners in the league that are that against going to the Olympics that even extending labor peace for 3 more years is not enough for them to go to the Olympics. Now to me, that tells me they're not going because if he's got a block of owners that won't even go with that little cherry on top of the sundae, I mean, you would think a lot of owners want to continue this agreement for 3 more years.
They're not going. They're just looking for the right time to tell everybody they're not going. Now, that's really what we're down to, I think. But the interesting part about this is the other part that Friedman sort of glossed over because he didn't really want to cover it now because we know it's coming, and I know I've mentioned it 2 or 3 times, is what possible consequences would a team have if they let players go? You know, what would happen to the player? What would happen to the team? I think it's going to be a dual-fold thing because we all know Ted Leonsis is going to let 2 players go, and if he does that, there will be probably a fine to the team and some sort of suspension to the players. You can mark it down. I don't think it'll be financial to the players. I think it will be games missed because I think that's what the owners are going to be.
It could be like the All-Star.
It's not a threat.
It could be like the All-Star game where if you miss the All-Star game, you're going to have to sit out a couple games. But a couple games is not going to be enough.
I think it'll be more than that, Mike. And here's the thing.
I bet you it'll be 10. I bet you
cash, yes. I think it might be 5 or 10. Cash is no longer a threat because let's say they say cash, right? The Russian Ice Hockey Federation is going to be like, come on, Malkin, we'll pay your way. Come on, Ovi, we'll pay your way. I mean, cash is no good. It has to be games.
It has to be games. I agree.
Yeah.
It has to be. And it just has to be. I totally agree.
No, we're apparently coming up upon basically a drop dead date without there being a date because from what Mackenzie said earlier, apparently like the IIHF and the IOC, they need deposits for the hotels in South Korea within, I think, 2 to 3 weeks. And once that date passes, if they don't put deposits down, they're not getting the luxury accommodations. So we know that that's an important part of things.
Well, I gave you a date too, Mike. I'm going to be at a press conference at April 8th in Manhattan that basically is from the Olympic Travel Bureau.
Yeah.
And you're going to be talking about selling tickets to the Winter Olympics and what they're doing and how it's going to work out. And if they don't have an answer from a certain, if they don't have an answer from the NHL, I have a feeling it's going to be a very interesting conversation when they try and bring it up.
That's the last Saturday of the regular season, Russ, and I'll bet you anything if there's no news at that press conference that the following Monday, because remember there's that 2 days in between playoffs at the end of the regular season and the playoffs. I'll bet you anything that Monday or that Tuesday we'll get the announcement that they're not going.
Actually, it's April 5th is
that's middle then, but
middle of the week. But I could see it could happen.
Yeah,
just before that.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's check into tonight's games because we're going to be ending directly at 2:00 today.
Okay.
So I want to check into tonight's games and get to our lottery simulator as well in the last 15 minutes here. All right, so tonight one thing about the condensed schedule is you have more games on Monday than you ever had before. I'll give you that.
That's true.
Yeah.
Mondays used to suck, and now they actually are.
Usually there's like 1 or 2 games on Monday.
In real life, Mondays still suck, but for hockey, they're better.
They still suck, but for hockey, they're a little bit better. So
nobody's ever happy. Like, is there one person on earth you've ever said, "Hey, I'm so glad it's Monday"?
No. Except for the people who who work weekends. Like I remember, as a waiter.
That's true. Yeah.
As a hotel person, you probably didn't mind Mondays as much either.
Yeah. Back in the day, I did have Mondays off, but that's a long time ago. Yep.
There are 2 major games tonight. Two of the five, but there's two games, and then there's one that does play into it as well, of course. But you really have the Bruins and Maple Leafs in a real showdown. I know you're heading up there, Mike, right after this. And this is going to be a heck of a game. And this, the Bruins are playing so well right now. The Maple Leafs are playing so well right now. Mm-hmm. This is a hard one. This is a hard one to call.
Well, I mean, you look at it a few ways. The Bruins have had 3 days off. They're finishing. They had that Western Canada road swing. They won 2 of 3. Apparently there's a little flu going around through the room. Backus is a game time decision. Bergeron had a maintenance day, but they're both expected to play. The Leafs have gone 3-0 against the Bruins this year. It's been the Leafs' speed against the slower Bruins, but the Bruins aren't as slow as they were earlier in the season. They're not playing.
It's a little different now.
Yeah, it's a little different. And Marchand is the hottest player in the league.
But it's going to be Marchand against Komarov, isn't it? I mean,
that is going to be the matchup to watch. It's going to be the Bergeron, Backus, Marchand line against Komarov, Kadri, and Connor Brown.
Yep.
That will be where the game is decided.
A lot of shenanigans on those.
A lot of stuff. There's going to be a lot of carving. There'll be more carving than there is on Thanksgiving, Russ. I mean, it's really going to be.
Now, what I would expect too on defense is they're probably going to play a zone, because unless they're going to have Carlo cover Matthews, which Carlo's done it before in his career.
Yeah. They
probably won't do that. They'll probably play a zone, because clearly Chara can't cover Matthews.
Well, this is the thing, and I noticed this on Saturday when the Leafs played the Hawks, and Babcock has started to do this the last few weeks, and I think it may eventually be till their detriment. But the thing is, he really has no choice. They're playing essentially 5 defensemen.
Yeah.
By early in the third period, they sit like whoever the number 6 is, Marchenko or Marinson, and they go with 5 defensemen. Tonight, Connor Carrick comes back in the lineup, but I think even with him back in the lineup, they're going to do the same thing. And you're exposing Jake Gardner, and we know Jake Gardner, like if he's playing against second line, third lines, he's okay. If he's playing against top lines, he gets exposed. And he's been getting exposed more and more often recently. And you're not talking about a deep defensive core, and they're playing 5D almost 20 minutes a night. So
something I would do if I were the Leafs is Matthews is so great at really gaining the offensive zone with a head of steam. I would have him do that to the corner, let Chara follow him, and then get the dish to puck to his other line mates, because I think that's Chara's only play. He can't keep up.
Nylander had a big game against the Bruins, the game that they won 6-5 in Boston. I think he scored a hat trick that game, and he was flying all over the place. So, but again, this is a different Bruins team. They have a 2-line offensive attack, Pasternak on one line, Marchand on the other line, and the Leafs didn't have any problems with the Hawks on Saturday until Joel Quenneville, as he usually does, he puts Panarin, Kane, and Taves together, and that line was uncontrolled. They could not control that line at all.
No, that line is sick. It's crazy.
And I will tell you that the big matchup problem for the Leafs is going to be Pasternak. Like that's going to be that's going to be a big problem for them.
That'll probably, and Pasternak would probably end up going up against, I would probably think, the Bozak, Van Riemsdyk, Marner line. Marner is a pretty good.
Which defensive pairing will be out there?
Well, see, that's the thing. It's like you pick your poison. It's either going to be Riley and Carrick, or it's going to be Polak and Hunwick. Either way, it's not a great matchup. But Boston's got to worry about the matchups against the Leafs forwards too. So I think it's going to be a really exciing game, a really interesting.
It's a playoff game. Tonight.
It's a good matchup.
It really is going to feel like a playoff game. I have the Buzztron 9000 for what it's worth, who had a little bit of a rebound last night with a good night.
Buzztron 9000?
Yeah, I call it the Buzztron 9000. That's my.
It sounds like it was made at Radio Shack.
It does, doesn't it? Has the Maple Leafs winning this one in regulation, and we'll see what happens there. And they better, because right now it doesn't have the Maple Leafs in the playoffs, so they have to. If they lose this game, that works against them. You don't want to lose games you're supposed to win on the Buzztron 9000.
I told you the Leafs have of these teams, they have the toughest schedule of any of them. So it's Boston, then they go to Columbus on Wednesday, then they come back against New Jersey. New Jersey may not be tough, but now they can
always be a problem.
But Anderson kept them in that game against Chicago. There were times when the Leafs were completely against the ropes. And
Anderson's played really well. He has come through for them. But the thing is, like we were talking about with Cam Talbot, he's gonna end up playing 65 to 68 sometimes. That type of, McElhinney may play one more game for the rest of the year, and that's more than
schedule too, though. I mean, Boston
and a hard schedule. So
Boston's not easy. Ottawa, Tampa, the Islanders, Nashville, Dallas, Florida, Chicago, Tampa, Ottawa, Washington. That's a tough schedule.
That's a tough schedule. I mean, the last game against Washington may be easy for them.
The last 4 games, they end the season at home, but the last 4 games at home are Washington, Tampa, Pittsburgh, Columbus.
But like I said, Washington on that last one, they'll sit some guys.
It's too early to do that, Russ. It's too early.
No, it's the last game of the season.
No. That one was like a week.
Oh no, then it is too early.
No, yeah. Boston's against Washington is on the last game of the season for the Capitals.
No, I was talking about Toronto.
Yeah. Oh no, we're talking about Boston, Mike. Get your mind up.
Okay.
Yeah, we were talking about Boston. So yeah, I think.
So I'm saying Washington will sit some guys in that game.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, that'll help Boston there. So that's
probably play Grubauer in goal too.
Boston's got a really tough schedule. I mean this happens to Boston last year too. They got a really tough schedule. The other game tonight is LA and Edmonton. This is LA's last hurrah. LA's got to win this game flat out. It's just
they have to win it more for not to catch Edmonton, but more to narrow the lead on Nashville or St. Louis to 4 points because
they need 2 points. That's what it is.
And Nashville has Arizona tonight, so. That's the other thing. So that plays into it as well. And, Nashville, the Buzztron 9000 has Nashville winning in regulation and LA winning in regulation. But, it's hard to go with LA right now. In my own head, I wouldn't be picking LA in this game because Edmonton, this feels like an Edmonton game, but the Kings good luck against the Oilers over the past couple of years.
I have to question Dean Lombardi for the move that he made at the deadline simply because this team is not scoring and everybody knew that they could not score.
Yep.
And yet he goes out and trades a prospect defenseman to get Ben Bishop. I know because of Quick and his groin, but they only got a Ginla, and a Ginla is not the Ginla of 10 years ago. They didn't add any offense, and they needed to add offense, and I think that's going to end up being to the detriment of the Kings.
I'll tell you what the detriment of the Kings is. It's Marian Gaborik having 9 goals and 18 points in 48 games. That's to the detriment.
Playing first line, with Kopitar most of the
time.
Him.
He's killing him.
Totally agree.
Kopitar, what does he have? 6 goals, and you're paying him $10 million.
He does other things. Jeff Carter literally, and I hate giving Jeff Carter credit. He carried them for weeks.
Oh yeah, and Gaborik has been horrible too. I mean,
that's what I said. Yeah, Gaborik is.
Gaborik's guy. That's what you said. I'm sorry.
No, it was Gaborik.
Nhl Lottery Simulator here.
Okay.
Toffoli's not having a good game. No,
not at all. So sorry we're getting out of here early today, but we have a couple things we have to get out at 2 directly today. So
it's only 1:45. Eck, look behind you.
I know. That's it's the time change between Pennsylvania and New Jersey, Russ. You know that. Come on. 15 minutes different here. Okay, so let's go to the Draft Lottery Simulator today. See if our Avalanche can finally get something going here, man. It's so bad for the Avalanche. They have really struggled in every which way, including the Draft Lottery Simulator this year. Here we go. The winner is coming up. The Jersey Devils. There you go. And followed by the Carolina Hurricanes and the Colorado Avalanche. Jeez, I mean the Avalanche and the Arizona Coyotes just continue to get screwed in this thing.
I mean, Jersey Devils will take Nolan Patrick and walk away and say thanks very much.
Yeah. The Devils haven't had a first overall pick, have they?
Yeah, even Brodeur wasn't first overall.
I can't think of a time that they've had the first.
Kirk Muller was second overall.
Yeah. Or even that played for them, right? Or Bobby Carpenter, I guess he was a first.
Carpenter may have been first overall.
No, he wasn't.
No? Okay.
Kovalchuk was first overall, but he was.
He wasn't with that team.
Right. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I don't think, top of my head, they may not have ever had one.
I don't think they've ever had the first pick overall in the draft. Yeah. That'd be
I think they did when they were Colorado. I think Wolf Payman was.
Well, you can't count that, Mike.
Well, it's the same organization.
No, we're just talking Jersey Devils.
Yeah.
No, they haven't.
Yeah, I don't know. So big. I'll be back this afternoon with other. I'll also touch on Radulov for a second.
Wait, you're doing a show without us?
Sorry. No.
No. That's what that's how the Beatles went the wrong way. All of a sudden, everybody had to do a solo album.
Yeah. Well, I got my Yoko Ono over here. So. All right. So Radulov.
That's the way it is, huh?
I want to touch base on Radulov for 2 minutes. Talked to a source yesterday. Had a really interesting discussion with them. The rumors of Radulov demanding an 8-year contract are completely absurd. That is not something.
He's not doing that.
He does love Montreal. Everything about it. I mean, the fans, the teammates, the culture, the city, his role in the team. I was told, and remember, this is the guy who was in Nashville.
Bagels, the hot dogs. I get it.
Yeah. The women.
Smoked meat.
Yeah. Shea Paris, everything about Montreal. He's totally yes. So and then Claude Julien, he also really is a big fan of. So that also has helped too. He does have other options, according to my source, though, and there are other teams in the NHL that do want to give him serious money, and there are some of his better friends from Russia that are on those NHL teams. I didn't get any further than that, but
okay. I mean, I'm just spitballing here. One, obviously, the home of most Russians is the Washington Capitals.
right.
Now, I would struggle to figure out how they could fit him in their salary cap situation because they're not going to be able to sign Oshie. They're not going to be able to sign Williams. They're probably going to have to choose between Shaq.
Hey, the Flyers have gone heavy into Russians the last couple of years.
I know that I believe he was teammates with Nikita Zaitsev in Russia, but I haven't picked up on any big interest in Radulov with the Leafs. I think the Leafs would love to stab the Canadians.
I'll tell you who's drafted a lot of Russians is the Minnesota Wild, but they have cap problems.
Yeah, they've got cap problems.
But there, there's a number of scenarios where you can see go someplace else.
I was trying to find out if I know there's 2 Russian groups sort of among players. So sometimes we think Russians are they're friends, they're not. And I've been trying to get to the bottom of whether, and for some reason I think Ovechkin and Radulov are in different groups. For what it's worth. I mean, I don't know. I got to really check.
I think if the Rangers were able to move Nash, I could see Radulov being in there playing with Buchnevich. That would actually make a lot of sense too.
Yeah.
Now, what about Radulov and Malkin?
Yeah. That Penguins, how they would ever find cap space though. That's like.
Yeah, I don't think the Penguins could pull it off. The Rangers could pull it off if Nash were to go.
Kunitz and Dupuis contracts drop off. I mean, they have other people they have to pay.
Yeah, they have to pay defensemen. They have a lot of defensemen they have to pay, from what I was told. But yep, that's all the time we have for today, guys. Sorry to rush out of here today, but we will be back again tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you then.